What if I told you that the cure for some of our most feared diseases might not be in a high-tech lab, but right under your feet? It sounds wild, right? Well, today we're diving into this really fascinating document, a warning letter that makes that exact claim. So let's explore this idea together. And it all starts with this one simple line, a warning letter written barefoot. You know, it just immediately sets a totally different tone, doesn't it? We're not talking about sterile labs or hospitals here. We're talking about a direct physical connection to the earth. It's a simple phrase, but wow, it really opens the door to a radical new way of thinking about our health. So this brings us to the big question, the one at the heart of this whole thing. Could just taking a simple walk, barefoot, really be a powerful cure for something as serious as cancer? Now I know, that sounds like a huge claim, but the letter doesn't just throw this idea out there. It actually backs it up with a pretty interesting theory about what's happening inside our bodies. Let's break down the science it suggests. Okay, Section 1, the Earth's simple cure. So the whole theory presented in this letter really boils down to what's going on at a microscopic level, right inside our cells. It suggests that a lot of modern illnesses begin with this tiny, invisible enemy, and that the solution is just as tiny, just as natural, and, well, it's literally right beneath us. All right, so who's the bad guy in this story? According to the letter, it's these things called free radicals. You've probably heard that term before. The best way to picture them is like tiny, out-of-control pinballs wreaking havoc inside your body. They're these unstable molecules that just bounce around, damaging your cells, causing inflammation, and that damage can eventually lead to some really serious stuff like aging and even cancer. So how in the world do you stop these little pinballs? Well, the letter proposes a cure that's incredibly simple, something called grounding or earthing. The idea here is that our planet, the Earth, is basically a giant battery. It's just full of these free electrons. And when you take off your shoes and walk barefoot, you're plugging yourself directly into that natural power source. The theory is that those electrons flow up into your body and, poof, they neutralize those harmful free radicals, stopping the damage in its tracks. Section 2, Stories of Transformation. Okay, so that's the science behind it. But a theory is just a theory, right? What really makes this letter so compelling are the incredible real-life stories it shares. We're talking about people who are in some really dire situations who claim this one simple practice, barefoot walking, completely turned everything around for them. Let's take a look at the first case, which is just wow. It's about a man named Professor Park Sung-tae. He was diagnosed with terminal prostate cancer, and it wasn't just contained, it had already spread to his spine. His doctors basically told him there was nothing they could do, that a cure was impossible. Okay, but now look at this timeline. This is where it gets absolutely wild. In January of 2022, he gets this devastating diagnosis. But get this, in that very same month, he reads a book called Walk Barefoot and starts doing it immediately. And then, just 2 months later, in March, his medical tests come back and they show a recovery that the letter describes as nothing short of a miracle. And the numbers here, they really paint a picture. His cancer marker, which is called a PSA level, went from 935, and to be clear, that is an incredibly high number, all the way down to 0.058, which is well within the normal, healthy range. And those spine scans that showed cancer, completely clear. The letter holds this up as some pretty powerful evidence. Next up, we have the case of a woman named Miss Suk. She had a very rare form of cancer, and even after surgery, it came back. And it came back in multiple places. I mean, just try to imagine how heartbreaking that must have been, to feel like you're completely out of options. But here's what she did. She started barefoot walking. And she didn't just dabble. We're talking at least 2 hours every single day. So 5 months later, she gets a CT scan. And what does it show? Some tumors had vanished and the others had gotten smaller. Then, just 9 months after she started, doctors confirmed it. All the remaining cancer cells were gone. Just gone. And there's this other story in the letter about someone with thyroid cancer. They were trying a bunch of different things, but the tumor just kept growing. But then they added barefoot walking into their routine for 3 months. And that's when things finally turned around. The tumor started to shrink. The conclusion in the letter is pretty clear. The decisive role was clearly the 3 months of barefoot walking. All right, Section 3, your first steps. So after hearing these incredible stories, you might be thinking, okay, I'm curious. I want to try this. And that's totally understandable. But how do you do it safely? let's go over some of the simple, practical tips. Okay, the advice from the community is really just common sense. First, find a safe spot to walk. Think soft surfaces like a grassy park or maybe a sandy beach. Second, you've got to watch where you're going. Always keep an eye out for sharp objects. Third, don't try to be a hero on day one. Start with short walks and then slowly, gradually walk for longer. And finally, and this one is super important, make sure your tetanus shot is up to date. You just want to be safe. Now, if there is one thing that all these stories seem to have in common, it's this: consistency. It's not about doing a long walk once a week. The letter really stresses that to see these kinds of results, you need to be doing it for at least 30 minutes every single day. That seems to be the magic number. Next section, join the movement. So if this is something you're thinking about exploring, the really great news is that you're not on your own. There's a whole community of people out there who are doing this, sharing their experiences, and supporting each other. You can actually find them at a place called the BarefootWalking National Movement Headquarters. It's a neighbor cafe. It's a place where you can find tons of information, see more stories, ask questions, and just connect with people who are on the same journey. It's a great resource. And so we're left with this really powerful thought to chew on. In our super modern, high-tech lives, where we're so often disconnected from the natural world, what if one of the oldest, simplest actions we can take, just walking on the earth, holds a powerful key to our health? What if it's been there all along, just waiting for us? Hey, if you found this breakdown interesting or helpful, we'd really appreciate it if you'd support us by subscribing, hitting that like button, and turning on notifications. That way you won't miss out on what we explore next. Thanks so much for joining me.